Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the City of Santa Barbara's Harbor Commission regular meeting for Thursday, October 17th. I'm Adam Stanowik, Chair, Kate Ford, Vice Chair, and it looks like today we have a full commission. So let's start off with a roll call, please.
Commissioner Anderson?
Here.
Commissioner Cohen?
Here.
Commissioner Ford?
Here.
Commissioner McCrae?
Here.
Commissioner Nelson?
Here.
Commissioner Stebbin?
Here.
And Chair Stanowik.
Here. Thank you. Director Wiltshire, do we have any changes to the agenda this evening?
Chair Stanowik, no changes tonight.
Great. Mr. Lopez, do we have any general public comment this evening?
There are no hands raised and no speaker slips submitted.
Great, thank you. Vice Chair?
Good evening, everyone. I wonder if we have any work group reports. Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent calendar. And that would be the approval of the minutes. Would you read that motion, please?
This is item 1, approval of the minutes. Recommendation that Harbor Commission waive further reading and approve the minutes from the regular meeting of September 19th, 2024.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. And call for the vote.
Yes, this is a motion by Commissioner Nelson, seconded by Commissioner Cohen to approve the consent calendar. Commissioner Anderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Cohen?
Yes.
Commissioner Ford?
Yes.
Commissioner McCrae?
Abstain.
Commissioner Nelson? Commissioner Stebbin?
Yes.
And Chair Stanowik.
Yes.
And that motion passes unanimously with Commissioner McCrae abstaining.
Great, thank you. Okay, let's move along to new business. Item number 2. Mr. Lopez, can you please read item number 2, the Santa Barbara Coast Chamber of Commerce presentation?
This is item 2, Santa Barbara South Coast Chamber of Commerce presentation. Recommendation that Harbor Commission receive a presentation from the Santa Barbara South Coast Chamber of Commerce focused on economic development and business improvement within the waterfront and harbor.
Great, thank you.
And Chair and Harbor Commission, I'd just like to introduce Kristen Miller. She's the CEO and President of the Santa Barbara South Coast Chamber of Commerce. So happy to have her tonight to speak to us about a whole bunch of things, economic and business related, and how they tie to the harbor. So I'll pass it over to Ms. Miller. Yeah, we're moving quick.
Great, thanks, Mrs. Miller.
Well, good evening, Chair and Harbor Commissioners. I'm Kristen Miller, President and CEO of the Santa Barbara South Coast Chamber of Commerce, representing business and community from Goleta to Carpinteria. And we are delighted to be here tonight to get to talk to you about some programs that we have currently running and some programs that we would like to see maybe a strengthened relationship with the harbor for the future. We have about 750 business members in the region that represent 75,000 jobs. We're run by a 30-person volunteer board, and we do have a professional staff of more than 10 people, including our visitor center staff of over 15. All of this work is toward improving the local economy and jobs. We see ourselves as very tied in with the business community, and we're funded and representatives for them, but with the intent of creating a community and a place that people can thrive and in their careers, in their homes, with education, healthcare, and their families. That does include visitor services and how that relates to our beautiful coastline and harbor. We're, as I said, looking forward to doing this tonight because we want to talk about 2 of the contracts that we are closely related to the Harbor Commission with, the Garden Street Visitor Center and our cruise ship program. And then let's talk about the future a little bit, about some other economic vitality items that we can work on. The Garden Street Visitor Center is really a historic little place that holds dear to many people's hearts. As you can see, it is the longest standing visitor center in the area. People remember it from decades before. I was trying to look up exactly how long this has been a relationship with the Harbor Commission or the waterfront, and I don't know, but it's decades. But the Chamber runs visitor services programs through that garden center, through the State Street Visitor Center, and through various other programs in Santa Barbara. We differ from Visit Santa Barbara, who are an external tourism agency drawing people to the area, and then once they are here, Rory Bateson, our visitor center manager, and the chamber staff welcome them and try to encourage their extended stay and that they have a wonderful time, come back, and spend more money. As you can see from the numbers on the Garden Street Visitor Center, we're now averaging about 1,700 visitors per month. We do use a lot of volunteers who are enthusiastic about working there and volunteering there. But the numbers have definitely changed. Pre-COVID is when the motor coaches used this spot predominantly for their stop in Santa Barbara. And since that tourism activity has diminished, we are now seeing mostly foot traffic from the waterfront in that center. So that has changed the type of information that we give, the amenities that we provide, and the numbers that we see there and the advertising that we do there. The State Street Visitor Center opened just before COVID and does have a different focus. It has more of a retail and has restrooms just like the one at the Garden Street, and that one does see much higher foot traffic at about 12,000 per month. We will continue to watch carefully how the Garden Street Center interacts with the waterfront as well as visitors on the South Coast, and continue to work with our board and with you on occasion to determine the best way to make sure we're maximizing that asset. The other program we run with you is our cruise ship program. Again, very heavily, we always have staff there, but it's enthusiastically run by volunteers who love to greet the cruise ship passengers. We've had over 68 cruise ship visits in the past 3 years, ranging at a time from 800 people coming off at a time to 3,600 at a time. We do hear so many reports, positive reports from these visitors, that the welcome that they get here is different than in other destinations, and they really appreciate that extra touch that we give them in maps or coupons and information, how to really utilize our downtown Santa Barbara merchants as well as tours and other operators in the area. Visitors have definitely told us they feel more welcome here, and we see this as an economic driver that takes the cruise ship program and expands it to the whole South Coast. Now, on a little bit of a different tack, I'm going to talk about our So Much to Love in Santa Barbara campaign. And this is in relation to about a year ago. There has been so much local talk and controversy about the Santa Barbara downtown and what to do next in making this the most vibrant and walkable downtown in America. And in doing so, it became obvious that we wanted to have a positive messaging campaign, mostly for locals. Our external marketing for tourism is excellent, but the So Much to Love in Santa Barbara campaign is a really grassroots effort to just remind locals of all the things that are available to them in the area. We decided to target different neighborhoods, so the downtown, the waterfront, Coast Village Road, the Arts District, the Funk Zone, and then an overall Santa Barbara message. So there's a special one for the waterfront that I thought you might like to see tonight. There's so much to love in Santa Barbara.
Come explore the waterfront.
Along the street, by the sea. Through every paseo. From shops to shows. Drink it in and savor its bite. Santa Barbara, there's so much to love. You like it? Okay, good. Again, this is a local campaign. Right now, it's very grassroots. It's not really funded, but volunteers have put this together, as well as some other visual assets that can be used. We have a landing page on our website. There's a tagline you can use in your social media, and there's some communication about it. This is really the kickoff in that we have much bigger plans for the future on how to continue to leverage this message that we're not saying everything's perfect, but there is so much to love and to remind us of the different neighborhoods in Santa Barbara. This relates to an economic development campaign and contract that you have heard about and that we're very focused on right now. Revitalizing each of these neighborhoods to overcome some ups and downs in the economy lately has been a key focus of the Chamber's board and our overall goals for improving the local economy. And one of the ways we did this was by starting to work with the City of Santa Barbara on a true economic development contract, proposal, program, because the business community has found that we don't have a clear and easy way to click in to the city policies and city processes with a voice from the business community. So in working with them, we identified these three key elements of what was missing and the Chamber wants to provide to the City of Santa Barbara. And one is data-driven policy analysis. We have a monthly data dashboard that we already publish, but recognize that there is more data available that we could be using to work with the city on making decisions that were not so much based on anecdotal evidence, but on what we're seeing in the actual economic trends, in visitor trends, in retail, in sales numbers, as well as lease rates and things like that. Business retention in the districts really refers not to the 6 districts I just named in the downtown area, but for the entire city, so including the Mesa and Milpas area and all of the districts of the city, as well as the positive communications campaign that we feel is so missing right now. That relates to the waterfront in that in discussions with Mike and with watching your work, we really see a need for, again, some business vitality programs that would connect the waterfront businesses to Stearns Wharf businesses to the harbor. Some of that involves this identity and campaign work like the So Much to Love campaign, but it also includes this emerging information that we have in the data about the Blue Economy program. And thank you to Michael Nelson for bringing that to the Chamber and bringing that to our attention. I'll talk a little bit more about how that connects into some other things that we do, but these were the priorities that we identified to work on with the City of Santa Barbara. That program has changed a bit in that after we presented it, the city has given direction now that they may want to look at going in the direction of an RFP instead of assessing our contract that we presented. So that is, again, unfolding over the next few months and will involve your commission, I'm sure. Our public policy reviewed the economic impact report prepared by Peter Rupert on behalf of Santa Barbara City College to study the blue economy. And perhaps as you were, we were amazed at the possibilities, the numbers, and the upside to increasing and enhancing business related to the coastal economy, and immediately began comparing some of the work that needs to be done there to the work that we are already doing in 2 other industries. And that is, the Chamber right now works with the high-tech and manufacturing industry sector on some very robust workforce pipeline programs. Similarly, we have programs with the hospitality industry for their workforce issues. So when the blue economy information came to us, we realized this is a template that we could start applying in a new way and do new work at the waterfront as well. I think the next slide really just says what I just said, that I think the next 2 slides are really, that's most of my information about the waterfront, and the next 2 are just to, again, connect you to some of the larger programs that the Chamber is working on and how that would relate to your work. As I said, the workforce development programs currently look at open positions in two of these sectors, hospitality and high-tech and manufacturing, where we need people to fill open jobs. The blue economy study that we saw was a little bit of the opposite. There needs to be job creation and then making sure there's a workforce pipeline that could come in. And these are the types of programs we're very interested in working together with you on. And lastly, you can't have a chamber presentation without talking about housing. For decades, the businesses on the South Coast have reported to the Chamber of Commerce that their highest barriers to business are that workforce pipeline work that I just spoke of, access to a qualified workforce, and then housing for that workforce. So I just want to highlight our Road Home project, which is a way to create, in order to incentivize increasing supply of housing on the South Coast and really the whole county. We're also creating programs for employer-sponsored housing consortiums, which means that 8 to 10 employers will come together in a legal consortium to master lease or buy units for their employees. This doesn't really solve a big affordability problem or even the supply, but it does guarantee units for businesses who are here on the South Coast employing people in dignified jobs. I think lastly, my comment would be that our assessment of improving the local economy would be creating more of an identity and campaign around connecting business vitality from the waterfront, Stearns Wharf, and the harbor. And there are some 3 programs that I mentioned there and others that we could be talking about to improve that over the next couple of years. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mrs. Miller. Yeah, I love the video too. It was awesome.
Could we ask questions?
Yeah, does any commissioner have any questions? You could step there. I think there's some few questions that we may have regarding the chamber. Yeah, Commissioner Nelson?
I have a question, but I first want to offer a big thank you. You folks will recall that the Harbor Commission and the Commercial Fisheries Work Group has sponsored an ocean collective in partnership with Santa Barbara City College, which is a combination of much-needed infrastructure, but also a career path towards ocean industry, jobs in ocean industries. And what we did was take advantage of the fact that the college had hired Peter Rupert to do an economic study, and we kicked off the Ocean Collective by first having Peter describe what a huge economic impact the blue economy has for the county and our region, and then 2, to have CFSB and the City College explain the curriculum that they're working on, and then finally we had a panel of folks that were involved in the industry, either them promoting it or actually in marine construction and that sort of thing. And Kristen was kind enough to be on our panel, which was really great. And just yesterday, I was notified by one of your public affairs officer that they do sort of an annual magazine, and they do a couple of features, and one of the features is going to be on the Ocean Collective that this commission has supported throughout. So big thanks for that. And I hope that I heard what you said about the workforce development, and I saw that you have a workforce development board that's sort of working with jobs that are available, but we need to sort of refashion that because many of the jobs in ocean industries are not there yet. But we know they're coming, whether it's offshore wind, whether it's decommissioning oil platforms. There are going to be a lot of jobs, and we're trying to make sure that the City College basically rejiggers its programs to provide training in those jobs. So to the extent that you can support that pipeline, for new jobs as well as the existing jobs. That would be greatly appreciated, so.
Thank you, and you described that so well. I'll just add that, again, economic development is often a little bit of a chicken or the egg. So in some industry sectors, as I said, we have job growth that we can't fill enough positions because there's not a pipeline of workers. And yet, what we've learned in the past couple of years with coastal dependent jobs is that there's much investment that could be made and could be creating jobs, but that's not going to happen if there isn't a confidence that there's going to be a workforce available to fill that as well. So this is kind of hard stuff, working on these type of things, but we really do see this as a key piece of the overall economic vitality of the South Coast. This is a little bit of the untouched territory where it's always happened as it's happened, and it's happened well. But if we want to see true organic and sustainable economic growth at the coast, there's ways we can do that.
Great. Commissioner Cohn?
Thank you. That was a great presentation. I have two questions. One is regarding the Road Home program. It's been mentioned to me a couple times, and I would love to meet with you at some point and learn more about that. But I don't know if this is a question for Director Wilshire or for you, but is that something that the harbor could participate in if they wanted to also provide housing? I know that that's one of the issues for city employees as well, is providing housing and making sure that people have, a place to be when they're here working. And so if there's an opportunity for the harbor to be involved in that process, I don't know if that's feasible or not.
Thanks, Commissioner Cohen. Do you mean like utilizing the harbor itself for housing, or having like employees and workforce that serve the waterfront of the harbor participate in the program?
Yeah, I don't think I'm talking about the first, the first option, but no, I was thinking, and I don't know enough about the program, but it sounds like it's different entities that are coming together to try to provide or build or do something around housing for employees. And if maybe, I don't know, the city was willing to do a test run or something, maybe the harbor could be a part of that. But it would be lovely to know that, that we were working on that as a community, and maybe this is a place where the harbor could, I don't know, it's an idea. Like I said, I'm just learning about that program, so I'm throwing it out there.
My short answer to that would be yes, we would love your help on this. And again, this is a private sector way to address housing for employees on the South Coast. It's not a government program, and right now it's not aimed that way. But the best way you could help is helping us get the word out to employers in the harbor at Stearns Wharf on the waterfront, who I'm sure are struggling with the same challenges that every other business is. And so we could do a consortium just of waterfront-related businesses so that their employees were in one building or site and live together, or we can spread them out, which is what most people say their preferences are. But really, this is just it's a way for the chamber to offer a tool to business owners so that you don't have to go figure this out for yourself, figure out how to do a lease and pass that cost on to your employees, or how to invest in the real estate market and have your employees live there. We're creating those legal documents and programs so that businesses can just participate.
Thank you. Yeah, maybe you can explore something there. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll coordinate with Kristen,
Yeah.
and at minimum, we can promote it to our businesses through our merchant meetings. So we meet with our merchants monthly, and so we could agendize it and kind of meet with them and let them, as we get more information about the program, let them know more about the program.
Absolutely, and maybe there's a way for the harbor to also, I'm thinking if there was ever a way for us to help provide housing for people that are working within the harbor for the waterfront, that would be wonderful. My other question, or not question, but suggestion would be, I have long felt like there is a way to grow our seafood and harbor festival, which is coming up, I think, this this weekend. And I am so impressed with what the South Coast Chamber does at the Lemon Festival. That is an absolutely incredible festival, which spans such a huge area of Goleta and brings in so many different businesses. It would be lovely if there was a way to take what is created right now just within the harbor and bring that out to Stearns Wharf and bring that out to State Street and to other areas of the community. So if there was ever a way for the harbor to work with the chamber to help develop a plan there, I think that it would be an excellent opportunity. So I would suggest you go to the festival if you have time this weekend and take a look at it for yourself. But yeah.
And if I can say one more thing about that, I really do appreciate it. And again, we see the improvements to our festivals and events as a great economic development program to grow something that we already have incrementally and sustainably in a way that doesn't impact, the neighborhoods, but brings in more revenue for the city that we're always so desperately looking for.
Sure.
So festivals and events, including that one, is definitely in our near-term plans of looking for things to work on that would have the most impact with the least negatives.
Thank you.
Vice Chair?
Oh, thank you. First of all, I've cruised to every single port in California, and I have to just say kudos to you. The welcoming committee is like nothing else anywhere else, so it's
Thank you.
amazing.
Thank you, Rory.
And thanks for your presentation, too. I just wondered, it seemed like everything was really going gangbusters about this economic development contract and then pulling back to this concept of going for an RFP. Do you have any more sort of sense about how this will unfold?
Yeah.
You wanna speak to that?
I'd be happy to. That really is a city process, and so this
No, I know.
went to the Finance Committee. I believe Commissioner Stedman and Nelson were there. Some of the chief concerns with the Finance Committee, the council members, were the fact that it was not being competitively advertised, among some other comments. So it was really kind of a council and city decision, and so it's going back to the drawing board on how to write up that RFP. One of the other big takeaways was that a lot of the work can be done in-house with the city, and so we want to be conservative with the dollars we spend to make sure that we get something tangible that we can use. We don't necessarily need a report that tells us that all the stuff that we already know or the data that we already have. So this has kind of spurred us to start looking internally at some of our revenue data, tax measure data at the waterfront, our business data, as opposed to necessarily paying somebody to do that, and then it can be much more valuable putting that data in somebody's hands, like the chamber or like somebody else, to kind of analyze that data and give us a product for something that we don't already have.
Sure.
So I think the takeaway was just like take a step back, reevaluate the product that the city's looking to receive in return, go out to RFP, and then move forward from there.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Lopez, do we have any public comment regarding this item?
There are no hands raised and no speaker slips submitted, Chair Stanwyck.
Great, thank you. We appreciate you being here, Mrs. Miller.
Thank
Thanks
you
for the
so much for
presentation.
the invitation. Thank you.
Great. Okay, we can move on to item number 3, the annual review of the Clean Marina Program. Mr. Lopez, can you please read item number 3?
This is item 3, annual review of the Clean Marina Program. Recommendation that Harbor Commission receive a presentation from staff outlining the waterfront's Clean Marina Program. Discuss and take action as necessary.
And Chair Stanwyck and Harbor Commission, just a little preface on this one. So this was historically something that we reported on every year. We do a lot of work to feed our Clean Marina Program. We have kind of neglected reporting it back to Harbor Commission with everything going on, COVID, some staffing changes. So I just want to give Nico Lopez a huge kudos. He's sort of taken ownership of this program as a real vested personal interest in the environment and the water quality at the harbor. And so not only is he clerking the meeting, he's going to be presenting this one as well. And he kind of put this presentation together and revived the presenting part of it. So thanks, Nico.
Great. Thanks, Ms. Lopez.
Thank you, Director Wiltshire. Chair Stanwyck, Vice Chair Ford, thank you all so much for being here tonight. Harbor Commissioners as well. My name is Nico Lopez. I'm the administrative assistant here at the Waterfront Department, and tonight I'm going to be providing you the annual review of the Clean Marina Program. I have a lot of great information here, so we can go ahead and dive right in. So just for a bit of history about the program, it was adopted in June of 2002. It is a Waterfront Department developed and City Council approved program with the goal of achieving and maintaining best management practices and a clean harbor environment for people, aquatic life, and seabirds. That goal has remained the same throughout the 22 years that the program has been in effect, and the Harbor Commission does review the program's progress and effectiveness. There are 6 elements of the Clean Marina Program, so facilities for boaters, water quality monitoring, best management practices, pollution prevention and abatement, education, and compliance and enforcement. Each of these elements represents multiple efforts by waterfront staff to achieve the overall Clean Marina Program goal, and we will dive into each one of these individually. So starting with facilities for boaters, Waterfront Department offers multiple different facilities for boaters that are free to use with the goal of keeping specific substances out of our harbor waters. We have 5 sewage pump out stations, 3 on Marina 1, 1 at the fuel dock, and 1 at the launch ramp. These are free to use for visiting boaters and slip permittees, and we encourage that use. Between fiscal years 22 and 24, we had over 16,000 minutes of sewage pump out, which diverted hundreds of thousands of gallons of effluent to our city sewer system. These pump out stations are maintained by our staff, by our maintenance staff, and Heal the Bay, which is a foundation, routinely checks the quality of these pump outs, and they're routinely in great condition. We also have a bilge water pump out station, which is at the fuel dock, and that accepts bilge water mixed with oil or diesel. And we removed over 6,000 gallons between fiscal years 22 and 24. In addition to our sewage and our bilge pump outs, we also offer waste oil disposal stations. So there's 3 of these, 1 at Marina 2, 1 at Marina 4, and 1 at the fuel dock. These accept oil, oil filters, bilge pads, and antifreeze. And between fiscal years 22 and 24, we had over 13,000 gallons of waste oil that was collected. We also have marine battery collection, just 1 station at the city pier, and boaters can turn in used batteries. So between fiscal years 22 and 24, we had an average of 183 batteries per year that were placed in that station. And then finally, the Waterfront Department does offer 40 debris nets that are located throughout the harbor. These are free to use, and staff does encourage use by boaters. You're able to remove debris that's in about an arm's length there. Staff does maintain these nets, and so when they either go missing or deteriorate over time, we do replace them. So we had 31 nets that were replaced between fiscal years 22 and 24. There are also 5 fishing line recycling stations, so 2 at the seaward end of Stearns Wharf, 1 at the end of Stearns Wharf's shoreward finger, and 1 each on the Stardust and Coral Sea. Our next element is water quality. So the Waterfront Department has 2 different areas that we test our water quality for, one of those being bacteria. So there's 8 sites that you can see on the image on the right that are tested for year-round for bacterial indicators. So we test for total coliform, fecal coliform, and enterococcus. We also conduct monthly testing for dissolved oxygen. So our dissolved oxygen levels are really important to our fish populations here in the harbor, and the dissolved oxygen testing that we do helps to predict any sort of fish die-offs or unhealthy environments. So generally, we have really good dissolved oxygen content. We have not had any fish die-offs reported locally within the last 3 years. So really good news. So the Waterfront Department in 2009 began experimenting with different types of anti-fouling paints in an effort to reduce the dissolved copper content that we have in our waters here. We experimented with different types, so ceramic-based, zinc-based, and biocide. They all underperformed, so they either peeled off or wore down much too quickly for what we needed. And so paints with safe levels of copper are still the preferred product for paint for the hull of boats. Really encouraging study from 2023 came out. The California Department of Pesticide Regulations report showed that Santa Barbara Harbor levels of dissolved copper were well below the regulatory standards for maximum levels, so more good news there. And then our Clean Marine program. So in addition to our internal departmental Clean Marina program, the Waterfront Department also participates in the Clean Marine program. So this is a multi-state voluntary certification program that reflects compliance with environmental and best management practices to prevent ocean pollution. So the Clean Marine program was established in 2004, and the Santa Barbara Harbor was certified in 2006 and then recertified again in 2011 and 2016. And we will be submitting for recertification again this fall. And once we're recertified, that'll be good for an additional 5 years. So our third element is best management practices. First up, we have our stormwater pollution prevention plan. So this is an effort by the Waterfront Department to ensure that any stormwater that runs through waterfront facilities doesn't collect additional pollutants in the waterfront as it travels to the ocean. So what this entails is waterfront staff identifying potential sources of stormwater runoff. So these are areas like parking lots or trash enclosures, and developing best management practices to limit the pollution. So some of the efforts we have are we created some trash enclosures, targeted lot sweeping, and secondary containment for specific areas. Any sort of poor results related to water quality testing would force any new or improved best management practices. Typically sampling in the rainy season, so that's November through April, indicates elevated pollutants. There is water, stormwater runoff that we don't have any control of. But all subsequent samples typically indicate regulatory compliance, so those levels do go down. The waterfront also maintains best management practices related to our dive operations. So all hull cleaning dive companies are required to complete training in best management practices for underwater hull cleaning. Waterfront divers, our internal waterfront divers, do observe best management practices related to conditions and safety. And our harbor patrol also are trained and certified in best management practices for minimizing paint slewing into the harbor. We also distribute oil absorbent pads. So this is a grant-funded effort. It comes from the state of California's Cal Recycle division. These pads help to mop up bilges. They prevent accidental spills while fueling, and they also aid with emergency responses related to any sort of spills. So these are free, a free service that we distribute, and we distribute on average about 15,000 pads between fiscal years 22 and 24, and that's consistent with previous years as well. We also manage bird protection and marine mammal rescues, so we coordinate with the Wildlife Care Network for bird rescues and with the Channel Islands Marine Wildlife Institute for marine mammal rescues. We have various outreach efforts that we undertake as well, so there's some signage around the harbor. We put information on the Waterfront Department website, and we also include social media posts related to these issues as well. Then our fourth element of the Clean Marina program is pollution prevention and abatement projects. So the Waterfront Department contracts with a boat, it's called the Salad Boat, and it works to remove litter and debris from the harbor bi-weekly and after storms or events. So as part of your packet, there was a map related to areas in the harbor. Area C is what we call it, so it's near the launch ramp, and based on the way our tidal movement is in the harbor, a lot of debris collects in that area, so the Salad Boat helps to remove that specific debris. And we also have the Operation Clean Sweep, so this is a volunteer seafloor cleanup program. It happens annually, and it involves volunteer divers and non-divers who work to gather debris from the seafloor and remove it. So the location in the harbor rotates on an annual basis, and it's a great event. I know many of you have participated in it, so definitely recommend joining if you have time. Then we have our Surrendered and Abandoned Vessel Exchange Program, so our SAVE program. This is another grant-funded effort that the Waterfront has. We have a $65,000 SAVE grant that's good through 2025. In fiscal years 22 through 24, there were 14 boats that were abandoned and 6 boats that were surrendered. Our fifth element of the program is education. So staff disseminates clean marina information via various publications, such as dock lines. Harbor Patrol also works really hard to educate boaters about best management practices. They have pollution packets that they distribute. Some of our recent outreach efforts are some social media posts, and then staff also participated in 2024 Creek Week activities. So we were part of a tabling event, and then a short presentation aboard the Land Shark. And I do want to call out that photo there on the right. That surfboard was created by our maintenance team. It actually won the award for the all-staff departmental surfboard competition. It's made of epoxy and various pieces of debris that were sourced from around the harbor and some beaches. So just wanted to give a shout out to our maintenance team. It's a really great piece. And then our last element of the program is compliance and enforcement. So Harbor Patrol conducts routine inspections of boats using our marine sanitation device, also known as a DITAB. These are required for visiting boats, new slip permits, and live aboard permit assignments. So between fiscal years 22 and 24, we had over 1,000 inspections. In addition, the Waterfront also tracks discharge violations through warnings and citations. So there were 23 known discharge violations between fiscal years 22 and 24, which is below average for the past 5 years. And the vast majority of these warnings are related to small fuel or oil spills, paint chips, and sanding dust. So we do place a big emphasis on education to try and reduce the amount of warnings and citations. And then finally, our cost summary for the program. So this slide and table indicates the total program cost, and it also includes any grant-covered expenses. And just as a reminder here, the 2 grants that we have that apply to the program are the Cal Recycle oil-related grant and then the SAVE grant for abandoned vessels. And with that, the Clean Marina program continues to ensure that the harbor is a clean environment for people, aquatic life, and seabirds. And I am open to any questions.
Great, thanks for the presentation, Mr. Lopez. Do we have any questions? Commissioner Nelson?
I know that the city has a sustainability and resilience program. Are you guys the poster child for that program? I mean, do they know about this? I mean, this is really a comprehensive program, and nothing else that I've seen in terms of what city government does, not to be mean about that, but this is, I don't know if any agency is doing something this, of this size. Are they aware of what you're up to?
Chair Stanwyck, Commissioner Nelson, yes, we communicate regularly with the Sustainability and Resilience Department. We've had multiple conversations over the last few months about collaboration efforts. Part of that is how we got onto the Land Shark and participated in Creek Week activities that is run by the Sustainability and Resilience Department. So, yeah, we are in constant contact with them about this program.
And then finally, you talked about your B&P program. Given the big atmospheric rivers and storm events and swell that we had to deal with, how did they hold up? How did your best management practices hold up during these major events? Or did they make you look at it all from a completely different perspective?
Commissioner Nelson, that's a little, so the way that I look at that is those are pretty unique events, and so those are essentially emergencies. This program is kind of something that operates continuously. Those particular events stressed all of these systems, so there was like record amounts of runoff. Our storm drains were overrun. There was more sand and seaweed and debris in the harbor than ever, and so I really kind of categorize those as one-off events that we address and clean up and handle kind of independent of this ongoing program.
Commissioner Sutton? Oh. Commissioner McCray?
Yeah, Nico, I have a question, and it might be that you don't really have the answer, but I think somebody in the audience may. With respect to the discharge violations, how are those generally first noticed? Does it come from the public, or is it direct observation, or a result of inspections that don't end up working out quite right?
Commissioner McCray, a couple types of discharges. So in the harbor, in the water, if there's something like an oil sheen or something like that, it's often reported by the public. Harbor Patrol is often first on the scene, so they'll assess it, and they're trained to either boom it off, depending on what it is. They regularly try and go after the source, obviously, so they'll try and track down if it's coming out of a bilge or something in a vessel. We do cite people for discharges in the harbor. Again, we try and keep it educational first, but if it is kind of a repeat offender or something that was clear neglect, then we will cite for that. But it comes in from all sorts of ways. But Harbor Patrol is typically the first on scene for discharges in the harbor.
Yeah, Commissioner McRae, also to add, to give a little background for what was referenced as the MSD inspection, or Marine Sanitary Device. What Mark Stouter and our Harbor Patrol officers and crew often do is when we do have a visiting vessel that comes, as part of their check-in process, we'll accompany them down to the vessel, and we'll give what they refer to as a dye tablet, and have the vessel owner put that in their head and advise them to make sure that they're going into the holding tank, so they close that Y valve. When some people are coming in from either Catalina or up and down the coast, oftentimes then they may discharge when they're outside of that legal line in middle of the channel or so. But we're very stringent about our requirements, and so it's very immediate. Those are a very bright green or oftentimes an orange color. And so you'll see right away if there has been a discharge or if that vessel has gone into a slip and there's a discharge there as well. So anecdotally, not too long ago, someone splashed a brand new sailboat, and we advised them this, and we had them put that in there and had them to flush the head while we were standing there to watch. And sure enough, green plume all around the boat. Thank goodness it was a brand new boat and there's nothing in the head, but that was once again a great, educational opportunity for us to advise someone how to operate, that type of system safely and what we're looking for, and so the expectations in the harbor here. And then, just looking at, so historically and anecdotally hearing from, officers and people been in the department, when we instituted this, our marina is much cleaner now, because of having this system in place.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions? Commissioner Sedman?
I have a question. Excellent presentation, Nico. Since one of the tenets of your presentation covered marine mammals, and one day, I think in May, there was a baby humpback that had breached the harbor. Do you ever interact with the whale strike, ship strike program at all?
Commissioner Stedman, no, not necessarily. Like interact in the way, do we have communications with transiting cargo ships? No.
Well, no, the people that administer the program. They were given national attention, actually, 2 weekends ago on CBS Sunday Morning. The very program that we heard about presented to us probably 4 years ago, 4 or 5. So do you ever communicate with them?
The main interaction we had with them was through the cruise ship program and trying to get the cruise ships to voluntarily comply with that as well for vessel speed reduction and all of the concerns with whale strikes. And so that was one of the outcomes of the cruise ship subcommittee and the Harbor Commission itself. But direct interaction with that agency, no, we don't interact with them a huge amount.
I see. So the marine mammals are just the local ones adjacent to the harbor?
Yeah, these would be like seals, or if there's like a domoic acid issue, sometimes you see brown pelicans, and there'll be kind of die-offs of that sort. And so Harbor Patrol will work with SIMWE to, when people call that in, we get calls all the time. Hey, there's a dolphin here, there's a seal here, and so we often respond. And Harbor Patrol's main role in that situation is sort of A, making it safe, and B, keeping the public away from that scenario. And so, but SIMWE are really the professionals who deal with the mammals themselves.
Yeah, thanks. Good job again, Nico.
Thanks. One question I have is actually just looking at some of the numbers of the differences between the costs of the program. It looks like in 2023 there was a really large cost for the hazmat turn-in and disposal. Is that a new program, or is that something that the Waterfront offers now that I guess wasn't available before? And do you guys know anything about that?
Yeah, Commissioner Stanwyck, to be quite honest, so since Nico has taken this on, we've done a lot better work of tracking those costs. And so it wasn't all that clear how those costs were tracked in the past. And so we really wanted to try and capture it in its totality. And so the costs now may seem higher just because we are grabbing them in their totality. But as far as the hazmat turn-in and disposal, we have always offered that service. So I think this is
Yeah,
just
that's great.
a more true grasp of what it costs to administer.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I know as someone who's in the harbor all the time and has a boat and live aboard permit, we definitely appreciate it on behalf of everybody that's in there a lot. So, yeah, thanks again for the Clean Marina Program update. Okay, so now we will move on to item number 4, the Strategic Planning Work Group update. And just before we get started, I just want to give a shout out to Commissioners Ford, Nelson, and Stedman from the Strategic Planning Work Group. So I know a lot of hard work went into this, and thank you guys for all the meetings you've had with the waterfront. And with that, just wanted to say that the format, I think, best going forward, we'll have the waterfront start off with anything they need to say, and then I believe all of the members of the work group have a schedule that they'd like to do. We'll do a discussion and take action if necessary. And I just also want to preference that by, if there's any motion put forth, just if you would please keep it concise and actionable, then we could put our best foot forward and move on effectively. So with that, we'll move on to item number 4. And Mr. Lopez, could you please read the Strategic Planning Work Group update?
Yes, this is item 4, Strategic Planning Work Group update. Recommendation that Harbor Commission receive an update from the Strategic Planning Work Group, discuss and take action as necessary.
Great, thank you. And so to get started, I know the work group has some, has kind of a schedule, how they want to go with this, but does the waterfront have anything they want to kind of preface first?
Chair Stanwyck, thank you. No, nothing particular, just that we have been working in concert with the work group and Commissioner Ford, who's the chair of this group. And so this was absolutely a collaborative effort. Commissioner Ford has sent materials over to the waterfront over the last couple of weeks or so and put together this PowerPoint, and the intent was for the work group itself to sort of lead and have a discussion with Harbor Commission. And so Waterfront's been nothing but supportive of that, and it's been very collaborative.
Well, great, thanks. Yeah, I know this is something where the commission and the work group has done a lot of work, and now the efforts of that are being brought forth to the commission. So thanks again how you guys have handled it, and feel free to move forward with what you want to discuss.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, Chair Stanwyck, and I appreciate the nice comments, Director Wiltshire, and good evening to the rest of our commissioners. By way of introduction, I just want to remind you that this Strategic Planning Work Group was formed earlier in this year as a result of the annual priority setting activity and meeting where the Commission unanimously expressed an interest in the creation of a strategic plan that would guide and prioritize the actions, activities, and decisions going forward. My compadres in this work group are Commissioners Stedman and Nelson, as has been said, and yes, we did receive great feedback and input along the way from Director Wiltshire. So we met numerous times over the past 7 months, and we also considered numerous scenarios for consideration by you, and we often came from different perspectives, different points of view, and also obviously different experiences, but we always were trying to seek consensus, as we will try to seek consensus from you tonight. And as I mentioned before in past reports, we also studied important related documents, and we talked to other folks, as well as reviewed other harbors and what they're doing with regard to planning. So we do feel we're at a crossroads now, and this is why it's a little bit more than a report tonight, and believe it's important for you to well, really for us to share with you a clear recommendation on what we would like to see happen based on everything that we learned, and then get your approval to go forth. There's lots to do, and we're really only at the beginning of the journey. So in the next few minutes, we're going to do 3 things. We're going to apprise you of the rationale for our recommendation for a waterfront strategic plan, rather than a more expensive and expansive, comprehensive, time-consuming harbor master plan. We're also going to share the actual recommendation we would like you to approve tonight. And as you may have seen in the agenda documents, we did start with 3 recommendations, but we were able to sort of dovetail them all into one that we hope makes sense to you. And then we'll give examples of possible next steps that we can follow if you're able to approve our recommendation. So Commissioner Stedman will start with the rationale, and Commissioner Nelson will follow with comments about the actual recommendation. And I'll finish up with next step ideas.
Thank you, Vice Chair. And, just to echo some of the beginning remarks about this particular work group, it was sort of a hazy mission that we embarked on, and it was certainly a theme that sort of hung over us as we muddled through, addressing the general question of what is strategy and why would that even be important? Why is it of any value? And coincidentally, tonight on the agenda, we kicked off with the representative from the South Coast Chamber, which is very interesting because economic sustainability, I believe, is one of the strongest tenets for the foundation of a strategic plan. It also clarifies, gives us a lens through which we can evaluate and review our balance of uses in the harbor, all the zones. Some of you may not remember in great detail the report that Caesar gave on uses, but I think that this strategic planning process will increase the value of that lens. And it's also our responsibility. It may not be at the forefront of everyone's mind to review uses and to think responsibly about the economic viability of the harbor, but it is our responsibility and our capacity as advisors to the waterfront. It also affords integration potential. As a person who rides his bike a lot, probably along the same paths that Director Wiltshire does, if you've procured a bike in the last few days, but driving by Los Baños Children's Pool is a real eyesore. And, it's part of the harbor, but it's not part of the harbor's jurisdiction. So maybe with a strategic planning process, we can integrate with other departments who might be responsible where we're not, to increase the overall value of the harbor. And then that, of course, would lead to avoiding any kind of pitfalls and stepping over each other's feet, in other areas. So it seems like tonight, everything we worked on for all year, actually, many meetings is going to boil down to just a few minutes. But I wanted to end by saying that Chairman Ford, you did a good job of keeping the two probably most rascally commissioners in line. And to truly achieve consensus thinking is hard. It's easy in professional settings when there's a boss and you can make decisions and listen to people and cut things off if you're dissatisfied. But in the truest sense, consensus thinking at the commission level is a very difficult task. So if we didn't understand that at the outset, we certainly have been reminded of that. So thank you.
The recommendation, we recommend that the department consider the development and preparation of the waterfront strategic plan instead of more time considering.
Commissioner Nelson?
Is your mic on?
Microphone.
And to improve local implementation of the Coastal Act and the local coastal plan, and to support the Harbor Commission's 5-year review process and annual reviews of existing areas, zone uses, lease changes, visitor uses, marina slip uses, commercial fishing partnership, merchant and business uses. So the reason, what I want to do is suggest that it's not that we felt a full-blown master planning process wasn't appropriate or necessary. That was not the conclusion at all. What we did when we took a look at sort of the evolution of harbor master planning and the Coastal Act, we realized that the foundations the planning foundations had been established, starting back in 1976 with the Coastal Act and the first local coastal plan. Then in 96, the Harbor Master Plan was developed, and then most recently, the local coastal plan was developed. So what we thought was, even though, for example, the airport is doing a more expansive and expensive process, but that really wasn't necessary because the driving force behind, or the overarching guiding principles, are the local coastal plan. And what we need to do is essentially a strat plan to better implement or to continuously improve our performance and compliance with that plan. So that's how we got there. And I really don't have to belabor it, but the key thing about a planning exercise like this is it allows us to deal with the uncertainty which sort of overwhelms the harbor today. I mean, the storms of the past year and a half or so, the impact of climate change gets worse all the time. The uncertainty also includes budgets. The city's trying to deal with a structural budget deficit, making John's point about the need for, optimizing the revenues if possible as well as the public benefits. So it allows us, it takes some of the uncertainty out of it, and it allows us to seize on opportunities, just like Krista Miller in the chamber said today to us. Basically, they want to move in and try to make our waterfront more productive, and this will allow us to work with them to make sure that the strategic plan, in fact, reflects that. So we are cognizant of the cost of anything, particularly in terms of time, but one of the things that we are, I guess, emboldened by or reassured by is we're not alone in this. Other harbors have dealt with this, and they have been able to secure financing from the Coastal Conservancy and the Coastal Commission to do this. So part of our recommendation is that we try to figure out a way that we can do this process and begin to plan, but do it in a way that doesn't cause real fiscal problems for the waterfront department. In fact, just when I looked at Morro Bay has a big waterfront planning exercise they want to do is update theirs, and they've literally recommended a request for $750,000 to the Coastal Commission for this. I know in Fort Bragg, they did the same sort of thing. The Coastal Commission and Conservancy worked together to provide them with funds for their planning effort, and the result was a new state program called California Jobs First made a $3 million award to the Fort Bragg Harbor for an ice house, which we all can understand and respect. So we really think we're moving in the right direction. And in addition to just saying we would like you to consider doing this, we're engaged in this process, and we'd like to help. So to the extent that you don't mind working with us, we're willing to work with you on identifying fund sources and doing things. And Kate's going to continue this discussion by elaborating on that offer.
Thanks. I think I would just like to point out, if you can look at A and B also, that we really feel that part of our recommendation is that there are two things that have to happen going forward also in the consideration of the development and preparation of a waterfront strategic plan. One is that all of us understand and really delve into all the relevant documents, just so that we're all on the same page with regard to our responsibilities. And also, we just really want this to be a plan that involves a lot of community and stakeholder involvement. We want it to be something that clearly fosters continuous improvement, and also is just a real easy, user-friendly communication tool related to the waterfront and the fact that we're a working harbor. So if you're able to go along with our recommendation that this is where we should continue to work, and you believe that a strategic plan, a waterfront strategic plan, is the right idea, here are some things I think would be great next steps. We want to work on a timeline. Obviously, we need to try to figure out how long this will take. We'd like to clarify the scope and the ownership of the various elements of a plan. We want to make sure, as both of my compadres have said, a way to make the process integrate very well and improve the execution of other plans such as City Vision 2030 and the current Santa Barbara City Council strategic planning efforts, which are underway. And we also definitely want to research, as Commissioner Nelson said, different funding sources and amounts. We obviously need to figure out how to afford this along with the waterfront. And then we'd also like to consider, because there's so much data, as we mentioned tonight on many different fronts, the creation of like a dashboard data placemat or a map that we have at on the dais at each of our places that would include everything that we need to sort of help us move forward and different parts of a strategic plan. So with that, I think I will turn it over to Chair Stanwyck for discussion and a possible motion.
Great. Thank you, Vice Chair Ford. And with that, do we have any questions for the members of the work group or any discussion points? Commissioner McCray.
I would just like to ask staff, Mike Wiltshire, to weigh in on this at this point, so we know what the perspective there is.
Yeah, Chair Stanwyck, Commissioner McCray, I've been involved with the work group through it all. To Commissioner Stedman's thoughts, it has been a little. I've been a little unclear on exactly what the end product is. So this is kind of helping clarify that. For me, there are a number of elements, to Commissioner Nelson's point. There are a number of overarching elements that are already in place that the waterfront kind of abides by and makes decisions under. It's the local coastal plan, the coastal act, our own kind of city governance, our budget process, which we're going through now. That really is sort of a planning and strategic financial process. Our capital improvement program, which addresses kind of the strategic planning for capital needs. So I think where we're going with this is kind of bringing all that together in like a distilled form, which is palatable for staff and would be useful for staff and commissioners and everybody. I think where it will diverge, I mean, you all know the efforts we're working on this year right now. We're working on vessel insurance policy. We're working on kind of mooring field updates. We just kind of got through Senate Bill 2 and all that with Hart. So these are big efforts. We do have staff, but the type of staff that deals with these sort of policy things is really like, you know, there's kind of 2 to 4 of us. It's myself, Nathan, Caesar, Angela, and Nico. The rest of our staff is really geared towards operations. I mean, they're maintenance folks, and so it's my job to be cognizant of like loading things onto us. And so I'm okay with this going forward as is and to continue working with the strategic planning work group. I think it's a really good effort to kind of at least consolidate this. I love the concept of a dashboard, and if we can kind of get there as our next landing point and just take little bites at a time before we're all of a sudden devoting hours and hours of staff time and looking at consultants and diving into all of this. I think as we all go along, we'll kind of get our heads around what's missing and what isn't, and what's already kind of governing the waterfront and what isn't. So maybe that was a long answer, but I'm totally content with kind of taking that next step and consolidating and moving along with this as it is.
Thanks. Commissioner Cohen.
Can I piggyback on that then and just ask, it sounds like there might be funding sources that would be available to help with the efforts. I mean, do you have any idea what the feasibility would be of I think you were saying comes from, the last one was from the Coastal Commission. Is that something that has been explored at all?
It has not to this stage, and so the city and the waterfront are trying to be more strategic even with the grants that we go after. It is an enormous amount of work chasing grants and funding.
Yeah.
We really try and focus that to grants that are serving our mission. And we don't have a huge amount of staff to chase after grants. So in short, no, we haven't gone after funding for strategic planning because we're kind of at the infancy of even talking about it as a group right now.
Is that, and then I guess I'd ask, is that something, would that be like one of the first parts of the timeline to try to secure some funding for?
Absolutely. We see that as something that we can help on, that we can provide direction and maybe do some research on. I think we're very excited about the possibility of funding sources. We're also very concerned and dedicated to make sure that this isn't an overload for the waterfront department, either fiscally or time-wise.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think just to add to your answer, Vice Chair, I mean, the funding sources that we've identified in the process, that's the only empirical data that we have, right? The rest of it's just sort of a document and conjecture. But those are hard facts that we can collect and possibly pursue. So that's a great question.
Any other questions? I just want to say I think a plan is great, and I love all the values for this. I think it'll be really helpful for the waterfront going forward. And one of the items I just wanted to touch on was the concept of a working harbor. And I think this could kind of be interpreted in several different ways. I know I've kind of just randomly kind of polled people, and yeah, the result that I've gotten is just slightly different. And I just kind of want to make sure that we're all kind of on the same page of what that is. And to me, I mean, I see working harbor, I think of ocean-dependent, ocean-related businesses and issues, which is really from the California Coastal Plan. And I'm just kind of wondering if you all see this as we're on the right path, or is there kind of like a major change that we want to do by incurring the master plan, or by encouraging the strategic plan going forward?
Good question, because we thought about whether or not we ought to take time today as part of our presentation to actually explore what is a working harbor. But one of the things that's a fundamental element of this is the consultation with the public, with stakeholders, and with the community. And it's pretty safe to say that if you sat down and you talked to Jamie Dimon, her definition of a working harbor may differ from that if you sat down and talked with Chris Voss. And the same thing would probably be the case if you talked with business owners out either at the wharf or at the in the harbor itself. So we thought, because stakeholder engagement and consultation is important, that would be one of the things that we would define. We would actually answer your question, but it would be an answer that's informed by our constituents and stakeholders.
Great, thanks. Commissioner McCray?
Through the chair. It strikes me that there are probably multiple definitions of a working harbor that kick around, and those should also be looked at, like, for example, with ACE, the Army Corps. They probably have a pretty concise definition of what it takes to be a working harbor.
No, that's a really good idea.
Good point.
The other thing that I realize, you may be aware of this, but I think the Fish and Game Commission has been trying to work on a definition of what a fishing community is for almost 18 months. So it's not, the definitions are difficult sometimes to achieve, but I think starting with the core is a good idea. Because there's definitions of small ports and big ports and all that.
Quick question, Director Wiltshire. Do the Fish and Game guys still carry guns?
Chair Stedman, yes, they do.
Wow. So they're the only badged individuals now in the harbor with weapons.
Any other questions or discussion? Oh, Commissioner Cohen.
I just was going to make a motion. Is that okay? Are we there?
Sure, unless a motion was, unless someone from the work group would like to make the motion.
If you
Okay, that's
go
fine.
back to the recommendation, just to approve. There you go.
Okay, I think we have one more question.
Yeah,
okay.
we do.
Commissioner McCray.
So I would like to recommend some slight wordsmithing if you're going to make the motion on the basis of this recommendation. So you look 4 lines down, it says implementation of the California Coastal Act and the local coastal plan. I think that would be better worded to be compliance, improve local compliance with the California Coastal Act and implementation of the local coastal plan.
Thanks, Commissioner McCray. Can you please repeat that one more time, Commissioner McCray,
Got it.
just for clarity?
Okay, so if you look 4 lines down, it begins improve local implementation of, and I think the better word for the Coastal Act is to improve local compliance with the California Coastal Act and implementation of the local coastal plan.
Great, thanks.
Looks perfect.
Okay, if we have no other questions or discussion, we would entertain a motion.
Okay. I move the Harbor Commission recommend that the Waterfront Department consider the development and preparation of a waterfront strategic plan instead of a more time-consuming and expensive harbor master plan to improve local compliance with the California Coastal Act and implementation of the local coastal plan, and to support the Harbor Commission's 5-year review process and annual reviews of existing area and zone uses, lease changes, all visitor uses, marina slip uses, commercial fishing partnership, and merchant and business uses. To this end, A, all Harbor Commission members understand the relevant legal documents related to the harbor, as well as their responsibilities for oversight and decision-making. B, the Harbor Commission provides guidance on the creation of a waterfront strategic plan and, importantly, involves community and stakeholder engagement with the intent to foster continuous improvement and provide a user-friendly roadmap and communication tool for clarifying all things related to the waterfront and a working harbor.
Thank you, Commissioner McCray. Do we have a second to the motion?
Second.
Commissioner Nelson seconds the motion. Before we move on, do we have any public comment on this item?
There are no hands raised and no speaker slips, Chair Stanwyck.
Great, thank you. We have the motion, we have the second. Would anyone like to speak on behalf of this motion before it's voted on? Okay. With that, Mr. Lopez, can you please do a roll call vote?
Yes, this is a motion by Commissioner McCray, seconded by Commissioner Nelson, for the recommendation as described by Commissioner McCray.
Yep.
Commissioner Cohen,
Yes.
Commissioner Ford,
Yes.
Commissioner McCray,
Yes.
Commissioner Nelson,
Yes.
Commissioner Stedman,
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson,
Yes.
and Chair Stanwyck.
Yes.
And that motion passes unanimously.
Thanks, everyone.
Great, thank you. And kudos again to the work group for all the hard work and working with the waterfront as well for this. And looking forward to what this brings. So thank you all. All right, with that, we will move on to the department update to item number 5, the director's report.
All right, Chair Stanwyck, Commissioners, my portion will be very brief. I just wanted to, next slide, just wanted to update the Commission and the public on a grant that we are pursuing, speaking about grants. So Boat US has roughly $10 million in their abandoned and derelict vessel grant. This is kind of back-funded by NOAA. In August, the waterfront submitted a basic letter of interest, which was recently accepted. It does not mean the grant was accepted, it's just sort of our, we've been invited back for a second interview. So this means we need to submit a full application, which is due in December, so we're working on that right now. The waterfront is requesting $250,000, and this is going to support the planning, design, and installation of a permanent mooring field, so essentially expanding our mooring field. Next slide. So the intent of the grant funds is to expand the mooring field. As you all know, moorings provide mariners with a much safer anchor point or a mooring point. A big thing is there's a lot more accountability. So if these were city-owned and city-managed moorings, we would have a lot more accountability and the ability to provide them on a nightly or weekly or monthly basis, and it would provide a lot of flexibility. We're hopeful that Boat US sees this as a preventative step. This grant funding is really geared towards the physical cleaning up of abandoned and derelict vessels. So we're stepping out of that box a little bit, but this really is a preventative measure. And so we're going to put our best foot forward, stressing that installing more moorings would inevitably result in A, more accountability, so less abandoned vessels, and B, a more secure mooring system, so that would result in less beached vessels. So having these funds would be huge to support this effort. So in the grant, we are offering up matching funds, staff time, so everything to kind of sweeten the pot and make sure that we're committed and willing to see this through. So we'll keep you posted on the grant. It is due, our final application is due in early December. I'm not sure how quickly they'll kind of get through those applications, but maybe sometime early in the new year we'll hear back if we receive funding on this grant. So that was all I had for tonight. Any questions?
Great, thank you. Commissioner Nelson.
I guess when you just said December, we can't really help, but as you know, the Channel Islands Marine Sanctuary staff is in the harbor, and they are, in fact, a part of NOAA. And one of the things that Merritt and I know is that the Advisory Council often writes letters, as they did for the cruise ship program, for projects like this. And having been part of an SK grant, a Salt and Stall Kennedy grant, they always seem to appreciate letters of support from the community. I don't know if we could get a letter quick enough for you, but I think I would certainly be willing as a member of the Advisory Council and the Harbor Commission to see if we couldn't get you that letter, if you think that would help.
I think it would. We do have time, and so we've been making the rounds. I just received a letter of support from Heal the Ocean, and so I was kind of going around, but that would be great as well. A big part of the grant targets underserved communities and tribal lands, so any connection we have there or letters of support or involvement we can have there will help as well. We do have time. Our final application's not due until December 2nd, so we've got, what is that, a month and a half to get it all together.
Okay.
So I'd be happy to reach out to you on the National Marine Sanctuary letter.
Right. Just tell them you hold their lease. So.
Yeah, and also one of the things, this was kind of a creative solution, I believe, to one of the items that we talked about with Public Works, too. So, I mean, is it possible to get Public Works behind this as well, too? Because, I mean, this was originally an anchorage that now would be a mooring, which would ultimately help as well.
Yeah, I know. You all remember the presentation we had from Public Works, so they hold a lot of concern that we allow open anchoring over that amount of infrastructure, and so this would be a unique solution. Not only do I think it would reduce the amount of abandoned and derelict vessels, but it would offer a great alternative. If we're full, if we have kind of a Catalina-style numbered mooring system that's owned and managed by the waterfront, it offers a great alternative for recreational and commercial vessels who are here. So I think it checks a lot of boxes.
Yeah. Any other questions? Commissioner McCray.
Yeah, I'd like to I can't support what you're endeavoring to do here any more than, I really think this is a great thing, not only from the perspective of avoiding anchors smashing into infrastructure that we've already heard about, but from the perspective of being able to offer probably the least economically, the most economically challenged section of the boating community, considerably more spaces in a relatively limited area of calm water that they might be able to moor in a much safer way, so they're not losing their boats and we're not suffering the consequences of having to clean up that mess because they lack the economic ability to do it themselves. This is a great thing.
Yep. Just echoing on that, we had the Clean Marina demonstration earlier today, and, some of the numbers we saw there under expenses was the save and abandoned vessel costs. And you look at 25,000 in 2022, 42,000 in 2023, and that's an expenditure that could probably easily be preventable, or at least mitigated by something like this. It kind of checks all the boxes in every other capacity. So I think it's a great solution. Any other questions?
It protect the outfall too that you're concerned about, Commissioner Anderson, right? It's not going to hook that line.
Commissioner Cohen?
I just have a quick question, I'm sorry, and I apologize if it's in the memo. Boat US Foundation, they were awarded the grant by the national, by NOAA, but who is Boat US Foundation? Are they located within the United States, within California? Is that, I just haven't heard that foundation mentioned before in here. Or maybe I have and I forgot.
Yeah, Boat US is a national entity, so I'm not exactly sure where they receive their funding from, but it is national. It's not a state agency, so I don't know if.
Yeah, it's actually part of Geico. It's a subsidiary of Geico, I believe.
Okay.
Insurance company. Yeah. All right. Any other questions? Great. Well, thank you for the presentation on that. Be great to see how that materializes. Move on to item number 6, the Harbor Operations Report.
Good evening, Chair Stanwyck, Harbor Commissioners, and members of the public. I'm Nathan Aldridge, Harbor Operations Manager, and I'd like to present to you this evening's Harbor Operations Report. So our first item concerns marina access and a security update. And keeping our harbor facilities safe and secure is a main priority of the Waterfront Department. An occasional unauthorized entry into a marina or restroom is an issue we take seriously and can lead to vandalism, illegal camping after hours, or theft. So the definition of our municipal code for unauthorized entry in Title 17 states, the unauthorized transfer or use of a key card is prohibited. So entry into a locked or controlled marina, restroom, or related facility without a key card and without the authorization of the waterfront director is prohibited. And then it specifies that a violation of this section is an infraction. And so for all intents and purposes, what that means is when we issue a key card to an individual, that gives the individual authorization to use the facilities and not any other person. So that's what is constituted by an unauthorized transfer. And our facilities are posted, both in the restrooms and the marinas, fairly clearly. So waterfront maintenance staff is working to install additional physical hardware onto our marina gates to prevent doors from being opened by force. And so there are magnets on our gates, and oftentimes with wear and tear or where they're placed, and with time they become loose or weakened, and occasionally we get reports of someone forcing a door open. And so one of the steps we're taking to address issues of illegal entry is physical. And as part of our continual efforts to maintain and improve our infrastructure. And so hopefully this additional level of physical security will help ensure marina gates can only be opened by a properly functioning key card. And then additionally, Waterfront Administration is in the process of deactivating older key cards. And some of these may be turned off. So if a slip permittee has an active card that's no longer functioning, they can come up to the Waterfront office to get that card reactivated. So these steps will cut down on the number of marina key cards in circulation that may be either unaccounted for or used improperly. And so staff here with the Waterfront would like to remind the public to alert Harbor Patrol of any suspicious activity and to call 911 directly if there are any crimes in progress. And so for some tips, make sure that all key cards are kept accounted for if there are multiple for a slip permittee. Don't hold doors open for individuals even out of kindness, and report any suspicious activity to Harbor Patrol. And then my next update involves Harbor Patrol staffing. And it's an exciting time. We got some great news around the Harbor Patrol office, and we recently welcomed 3 new Harbor Patrol officers to our team. So our 3 officer recruits joined the Waterfront earlier this month and been hard at work training, also in an academy, familiarizing themselves with our harbor, the waterfront, and our operations. And so I'd like to introduce each of them to you tonight. So our first Harbor Patrol officer recruit is Taylor Plash. Officer Plash comes to us from the Ventura Harbor Patrol. Previously, she also worked for Santa Barbara County Fire Department, as well as an ocean rescue lifeguard for the California State Park System. Officer Plash is certified in rescue boat operations, marina firefighting, and also vessel accident investigation through California Boating and Waterways. She has her United States Coast Guard captain's license, the towing endorsement. She is a California certified emergency medical technician, United States lifeguard, open water, and holds her PC 832 certification. And Officer Plash has a Bachelor of Science in Forestry and Natural Resources from Cal Poly.
Wow.
And our second officer recruit is Alex Simchek. Alex has worked as Harbor Patrol crew previously. She worked also as a reserve officer for the Morro Bay Harbor Patrol, while also juggling a full-time position as the beach operations supervisor here in the city of Santa Barbara. She was also the associate director of our city's junior lifeguard program, working with hundreds of youth going through that program over at East Beach in the bathhouse. She has completed all her coursework and has her United States captain's license in progress. Is also a certified EMT, an open water lifeguard with USLA, and a certified rescue watercraft level 3 technician. And Officer Simchek has a Bachelor of Arts in Neuroscience from Scripps College. And last, I'm happy to introduce to you Harbor Patrol Officer Recruit Connor Street. Possibly a familiar face to you. Officer Street also worked for us as a Harbor Patrol crew. Has been a hardworking commercial fisherman for years. He's managed his own seafood distribution business. Officer Street has worked on several commercial fishing vessels operating out of the harbor for years. Is a very experienced boat captain. Has a captain's license, PC 832 certified, CPR, AED certified with his EMT certification in progress. And Officer Street has an associate's in administration of justice with law enforcement emphasis from our very own Santa Barbara City College. So this concludes our evening's operations report, and I'm happy to report that we are fully staffed as a Harbor Patrol unit. Morale is high. It's a great time moving forward into the fall here, and I'm happy to take any questions from our commission.
Great, thanks, Mr. Aldridge, and happy to hear that the morale is high and the full staff is there. And yeah, congrats to the officers Plash, Simchek, and Street. And I'm looking forward to seeing them around the harbor in the next few weeks. Any questions? Commissioner Nelson.
It's not really a question, it's just a congratulations. Earlier in this meeting, I was engaging the executive director of the Chamber of Commerce about blue economy jobs and a partnership with Santa Barbara City College. And Connor clearly fits that bill, as well as your other 3 officers, that these are jobs in the blue economy. So congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you, Commissioner Nelson.
Vice Chair Ford.
And just to piggyback on that, I was delighted to see the qualifications and especially of the women. With the Santa Barbara Maritime Museum, we do a program in September called Girls in Ocean Science, which not only involves them deeply in science activities and experiments, but also introduces them to all the kinds of careers that are available related to the ocean. So I will be tapping these 2 ladies also.
Yeah. Thank you, Vice Chair Ford. And just as a frame of reference, I'm also proud to say that 4 of our 10 officers are female now in the Harbor Patrol.
That's awesome.
How many?
4 of our 10 officers.
Excellent.
Any other questions? Great. Thank you, Mr. Aldridge, for the presentation. Appreciate it. Okay. Okay, coming to the end of the agenda. Commission and staff communications. I know we have at least one big announcement regarding this weekend. Director Wiltshire, do we have any staff communications?
Yeah, one last plug for Harbor and Seafood Festival. I know Commissioner McCrae will be down there early. 10 o'clock, we're aiming to start serving seafood. So by 9 a.m., hoping for fish to hit the grill. So come on down. It's going to be a good time. Weather looks great. It looks like the fog's going to part. It should be sunny skies. So yeah, the staff is busily working all day today, tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday. Clean up.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
goes till 5, 10 a.m. till
Till
5
5,
p.m.
okay.
Yep. So
Yeah, I had a great albacore sandwich for lunch last year. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, looking forward to that. All right, any other commission communications? One thing I just want to say is that I believe the Harbor Restaurant, as of September 25th, has opened up for business. So I saw an article in The Independent on that, and I believe it was in the news, but I think that's one of our biggest tenants in the waterfront. So that's great that they're back in business and, revenue's coming in and people are enjoying the wharf. So great news there. All right, with that, we have come to the end and it's adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
A motion to adjourn, or motion seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Great, thank you all. Meeting adjourned.